In our last session, we were kind of going over the home page and getting the footer taken care of and a few details. And so everything's coming together and looking great. Right now, in this very short amount of time, we've put together a really strong first landing page. But as we're scrolling down, there's some little details that we want to take care of. And so in this session, we're going to cover the footer headings, the page background colors. When this page first loads, it's kind of a subtle purple color, which was the old demo design. We want to get rid of that. So we're going to take out that background, we're going to change out that background color. We're going to work on our color palette so that we have easy access to our colors. And then we're also going to change out the social links, icons, and in the footer and the styling on that. So let's get started. I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to show you this footer that we were already working on in our last session. And you'll notice that these welcome headings and this recent post are all pretty small. So we want to change those. And we also want to change out these colors and these social icons down here. So I go back to Aveda and theme options. And I go to footer and then the footer styling. I'm going to scroll down here and I notice that this is my footer headings typography. I'm going to change that to Oswald. And then on the font size, these you can just play around with. I'm going to go 18 pixels. Now, if you have a more feminine side or something that's a little softer or floral, or you don't want to go near as bold, sometimes a smaller font is a nicer option here. Because I'm trying to create more like Gorilla Bakery, strong, bold items, then I'm going to go with a thicker, heavier weighted fonts. And I might even do this medium 500 so it's a little bit thicker. The cool thing about this theme is it also has this option for letter spacing. Some fonts, the words and letters look really tight packed together and it can give it kind of a claustrophobic feel. I hate that. I want things to have room to breathe. The site should have a good flow to it. And so you'll notice that they've already got this letter spacing set to 1 pixels here. If you change it to 2, it'd make them a little more spread out. That's partly personal preference, partly design, but I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it at 1 pixel. The line height is 24. Once again, that's a space above and below the font, so we're gonna leave that alone as well for now. And we can always come back to that later and change it. So I'm gonna click Save Changes. And something that I often do is that while this is saving, I might have a separate tab open over here with the same thing in it, with the same page preloaded, and then I just hit refresh. And that allows me just to jump back and forth between 2 pages while I'm designing. And that way I don't have to close this page. I can get right back to it. I don't have to go, find my way back to where I was. And then I can just look here and say, oh, look, my headings are, much bigger. They're not too big where they're like, having to spill over and there's not a return on them, and that looks much better. Now I'm looking here, just checking on my footer widgets area padding. Right now it's set at 20 pixels, and you'll notice that all that stuff in these boxes, it's really spread out, and it's kind of feels to me like it could use a little more, it could be just a little more space in between each box so that it gives it more, a more clear definition. So I'm actually going to increase this to 40. So once again, that's the footer widgets area padding. And then I'll click Save. I also didn't like that when I was looking at my copyright down here, that this is a lot of black space. And I'm like, why is there so much padding below here? I'm like, that's too much. It's unnecessary. So I'm noticing right here, copyright padding, 30 pixels, 60 pixels. I normally make these the same. So that was 60 pixels of space below my words, really unnecessary. So that's saved. I go back over here, I hit refresh, and look at that. Now we've got much better spacing in between our footer options. So now this welcome, it's giving me another return here on this baked goods, which is great. Before it was just those 2 long rows and it almost looked like it was too much spaced out. And then, everything looks a lot better. Down here, our copyright, still probably a little more than what I want. It's looking better, but I like that bar to be pretty small. So I'm actually going to take this all the way down to 10 pixels, and I'm going to hit save. I'm going to refresh. Once again, flipping back and forth between my two boxes allows me to quickly be able to see my changes. And there we go. We have much better spacing down here. We have this little button here that is kind of covering up some of these links, and this is a go to top button. Totally up to you whether or not you leave that there. It stays floating. We can take that away, but we've got our links here for our social icons, which is great. And so now we're going to go ahead and style those since we're in this area. So I was just in footer styling. Now I'm going to go to social media and my social media icons. If I click on this box, you see I have my links here. So I could change this out to my Instagram custom link, and I'd put in my actual Instagram link there, instagram.com. I'm just going to put GG Bakery. Right now I don't currently have a Golden Gorilla Bakery Instagram because you saw we just created this site. Same thing with Twitter. You would just add your Twitter link, your Facebook, and I actually don't have a Pinterest, and so we'll just delete that one and we'll hit save changes. So we've saved those changes, and now then we're going to go to these footers, social icon styling. And I have these things here that say display social icons in the footer. Yes, if you don't want to put any down there, maybe you don't have any social media set up right away and you just need to get the site going, you can just turn that off. Boom, turning it off, look at that, everything's gone. I turn it back on. Here's my icon font size. So if I want to make those really big, I can. Right now they're a great size at 18 pixels, so I'm gonna leave it alone. But here's the footer social icon color. And once again, that gold color that I've been using, I will just go grab it from my right here. And you don't even necessarily, on this theme, you don't have to have the hash part whenever I'm copying and pasting within this theme. I just delete all of the numbers there. And when I do Command V and Mac and paste, it automatically adds the hash for me. Sometimes on this theme, if you start trying to type a hex in there, it will try to fill it in the rest of it for you. And I don't understand why. And so notice how as I'm trying to delete that, how it's starting to add those colors. I'm like, why did you do that? That wasn't helpful. So I just copy and paste it in there and it fixes it for me. Also, my social media icons right now have a box around them. Box is okay, but I feel like there's too much going on, so I'm gonna turn that off. However, if you wanted to leave it, right now the box color is white. We could actually make it to be like a nice muted gray so that it's a little more subtle down there. And then right now the border radius on them is rounded. So border radius is something that you can use to add just a little bit of design polish to a site, take off a hard edge on something. So if I was to tell this box radius to be 0 pixels, then they should turn them into squares. And so we'll go back and look at those icons and you'll see how that changes those. We'll just refresh. So now we have that these social media icons are, gray in the background. There's a square. There they are. We have the new color there is gold. It's looking better. But if I wanted that to be rounded, I could put in, 12 pixels and it's going to take off that squared edge. And I'll just hit save on that again so we can quickly see that. Because it might be something that you want to change. And the cool thing is they're using the same theme. As I put the rounded edges for one customer, I might want to have square edges for another customer. I can change up the colors, make them fit the theme, and it's great. So I refresh, and now I have a nice subtle rounded edge. And you can play with that. You can make them more round, you can make them less round, make them super subtle, totally up to you. For me, I like to just turn that off. So this footer social icons box, if I turn it off, I'm just gonna have the little Twitter bird. I'm gonna have the Facebook icon, and they're gonna be the golden color, and they're gonna be over there on the side, and they're gonna look nice and simple, and that's what I like. I like things to be nice, clean, simple. There they are. So I just have these 3 subtle icons down here. If somebody happens to go down there, they wanna get to that, great. Over here, notice my copyright. site design by Stature Design. All this looks great. The footer looks good. Everything's spaced out. I got my contact info. When I click on email, my email's gonna pop up. So footer's great. Now then, what we want to work on is the page background color. You'll notice that there's some subtle things here, that this is kind of a light purple color. We'll change that. These are appear purple, and we hover over them. They're not, they're not even visible, so we need to fix that. And we also need to change our color palette. So we've done our social icon styling. We've changed the footer headings. So let's go ahead and work on those page background colors in the color palette. When I go to this main Aveda theme options, I have all these great sidebar options here, and there's a lot going on. You're gonna mostly live in menu, header, logo, page title bar, and a few of these other things, typography. But I find that I spend a lot of time at the beginning in colors. So here's this predefined color scheme. I just ignore that because this is the color palette of the site. And when I first started using this theme, I was like, okay, whatever the demo is, that's what I'm stuck with. But the reality is I can click on one of these, I can change this, do that, and then I click Save Changes, and now that's part of my color palette. Now that's saving. I know that the other color that I use a lot is 222222, which is just a nice darker gray. I like these lighter grays here, but I don't like these purple colors, so I'm gonna just make this one white. And you can actually drag these up here and create and find different colors, but I'll just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hex codes are always 6 of something. We have been using this lighter yellow color to a certain degree for some hovers, so I'll leave that one there. And then oftentimes, if I'm making a palette, you can use that Adobe color, but for this particular design, really we're only using the gold and the darker grays and that kind of color scheme and just keeping it simple. But there are times when you might need a little bit of a lighter shade of that gold or a little bit of a darker to show emphasis or an overlay. And so I'm gonna paste that gold color in here that I was using, and then I'm just gonna drag this bar down and see how I got now a lighter shade of that same color. It'll still work with the palette. And so I click Save Changes on that, and I'm gonna make one more that's slightly darker. And oftentimes I don't know where I'm gonna use those at first. I just like to have them so that they're there and they're ready whenever I'm like, oh, this is a great place to use that. So I'll do same thing here, and then I'll just drag this up into this darker. So now you can see I've got this little bit more richer gold color that I might use in some other location. Kind of looks like a Pittsburgh Steelers gold right there. My friend Dave Cribbs would like that. All right. So I've got this nice light shaded gray that's FB. I actually prefer F7. So it's F7. F7 is a nice, super subtle shade of gray. And then one more that I like to use that's also very subtle is just 6 E's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so you'll see that those are just two very subtle differences, but when you're creating something that has just got a slight background, sometimes I like to break content up by just taking the background and making it a light gray, and then it might be white, and then it might be a darker gray, or it might be just alternating shades of gray like in a table so that you can break up columns and containers and rows. So grays are great for that. This gray right here, I like it, but it has a definite purple hue to it. And we're using things that are not purple hued. So we will take this more into a black hue. And I don't mind it being gray, but let me start over here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with just all blacks. And then I'm gonna go change that to just a nice dark shade of gray. And that might be like my font color for my body text and this type of text that's in the site. So I click Save Changes. If you wanted to, you could order those so that they had a nice flow to them, to the different gradients and everything else. Totally up to you. Somebody might be a little more particular on that, but this gets the job done and gets it done quickly. So I've changed my color palette. Now then I want to change out a couple things here that I'm going to talk about, and one of them is going to be layout. And right now our site width is set to 1200 pixels, which is a great size. It's pretty standard, but if you want to make your content just a little bit wider on the page, You can change this out, and I might do like 1350. It gives me a little more, my pictures might be a little bit bigger. And so by changing it to 1350, I'll go over here and you'll notice this spacing on this section right here. And you'll notice this area here and here, got some padding here, but whenever I click refresh, that extra 150 pixels that I added is just gonna spread that out just a little bit more. See that there? Now those pictures are just a little bit bigger. We still have a very nice flow on the site. These images down here, you can tell that they've been stretched out. This is more of a box that's been set at full width, and so they've taken advantage of just using padding on each side of that to make that spread out a little bit more. But now this content here is just looking a little bit, I like that those pictures are just a little bit bigger. One thing that I am noticing is that this box right here seems to have lost its padding. So notice the padding here. This one doesn't have it anymore, so we'll have to go back in here and add it and edit that real quick. So I'm gonna click on Edit Page. I'll scroll down here to this box. Remember that's this little pin that I edit. I'm gonna go to Design, and notice my padding is all gone. 20 pics, 20 pics. I'll click Update. So we've saved it, we'll view it, we'll make sure that it looks good before we move on. Great, so now our boxes are still looking good, we're scrolling down, we're baking special moments. I love that I have these boxes here so that if I want to change them out with some new photos, I can. Then I've got this Let's Stay in Touch box. This is something that I want to change. I want this box here to be a different color because it's definitely not in keeping with my overall feel. And then we're going to change out this call to action image here. Okay, so this is our preview tab. So I'm going to go back over here to this tab here, and I'm going to choose page background. And right now my background color for page is set to this light purpley color. I just want it to be white. So I've got my white option right here. Click on that. If I wanted to put in a cool background pattern, something that's maybe a wood grain, or if I was doing a race car theme, I might want to put some type of flags or tires in the background for something. I usually think background patterns can get busy over time. They look great at the beginning. You never know what they're gonna look like on different mobile devices. I keep it simple. So we're just gonna make it white. We're gonna save those changes. So we've changed out the page background color, the footer headings, the color palette, and the social icons links. So that's all looking good. We're gonna preview that real quick. Looks great. Page background color looks great. All right, so this is where we're gonna stop in this section. In the next session, we're gonna worry about the sticky header and change out these colors up here. We'll go down here and we'll change out this social media section right here. This is really an Instagram kind of a layout. It's not really an Instagram feed. It's just we've thrown in some photos and then created this here so make it appear like an Instagram feed. And then we're gonna change out this call to action. That'll be coming up.